Good morning. My name is Lara Semple. That's Lara with a U. And I have the honor and pleasure of serving on the standing committee. I send out a warm welcome to all of you and a special welcome to our online viewers today. Welcome. I'd like to lift up a few things in our Community Matters. Community Matters gets sent out during the week. It lists a lot of really important information, so you probably have that in your email box, and there's also one in your order of service. But there are a couple of things we want you to sort of have on your radar. The first is, there is a rally today, a racial justice rally today at the Baptist Church. And our wonderful Eleanor has brought some flags today. And if you would like to pick up a flag and bring it with you to the rally, they're in the vestry. There's also an Environmental Action Group meeting on Tuesday. So watch for the listserv with the Zoom link. And if you have any questions, Lynn Courtney is right over here, and she'll be more than happy to answer any of those questions. There are a couple very important dates that we want you to have on your radar. We're coming to the end of our church year, and so we're really in the planning mode for next year. So we have a budget meeting review on the calendar for Sunday, May 1st. That's when we're really going to work on the numbers for next year, so we have a very rich and vibrant year next year. Then we have our annual meeting on Sunday, May 15th. And both of these meetings will be after church on those Sundays. And another really important thing happens today. We open up our talent auction link for bidding. I see Jackie teased you all with the calendar yesterday, so I hope you all had a chance to look at it. There are some amazing things in there, and we thank everybody for donating such wonderful items. But before I end the talent auction piece, I want to just say a huge thank you to Rochelle and Jackie, who are the rock stars of this auction. Thank you so much for all the time and energy and love that you put into this catalog. It shows from the first page to the last page. So thank you. And everybody, have fun bidding. After church, if you go into the vestry, we have basket raffles this year, so you can peruse the table and see all the items. So enjoy. It's great to see you, and have a wonderful day, and welcome to church.
Now I walk in beauty, now I walk walk in beauty. Now I walk in beauty. Now I walk in beauty. Now I walk in beauty. Now kindness is on me. Now kindness inside me. Now I walk in glory. Now I walk in beauty.
Committed to respond to the call of a wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts and hands and minds, embracing the interconnected web of water, air, and earth. We light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world, not of wealth, but well-being. A new world of peace and abundance for all. As we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home, may we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care, rising to the calls deep within us and all around us. May we respond today and always with courage and with love. The words of Lynn Harrison. Let us worship. I'd like to invite up Henry and Zachary to light our chalice this morning. Excellent. And as they light the chalice, I invite you to say with me the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Good job. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome. I join with Lara with a U, in welcoming you here to First Church Unitarian. My name is Lara Hoke, and I'm very happy and lucky to be the minister serving this congregation. And yes, and if truth be told, Laura with a U is Laura. I'm the other Laura, just so you know. no doubt about it. All right. So welcome to another multi-platform worship service. We're so happy to have you with us in the sanctuary, and we're happy to have you with us worshiping from home too, remotely, whether you are on Zoom or watching on YouTube Live. Thank you for being here. If anyone is new with us this morning, whether here in the sanctuary or online, we're glad that you found us, and we hope that after the service, if you wish, that you can ask any of us questions about this church or about Unitarian Universalism. You can find one of us if you're here in person. We're a pretty friendly bunch. Online, I encourage you to go to the website, fculittle.org, and there you'll find information, but you'll also find ways to contact us and to have us contact you if you wish. So we continue on this Sunday. We are honoring Earth Day, which happened this past week, and we are continuing on in our Mountain Dew Chartreuse conditions so that we sing, but with masks, but we're singing, which is so exciting still to me. And our opening hymn this morning is one of our favorites, I think, number 38, Morning Has Broken. And I invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
right, I'm going to try and speak loud because I know I have a soft voice. There. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I'm reading The Last Tree by Emily Haworth-Booth. Too close to me. Thanks. Once upon a time, there were a group of friends. They were looking for a place to live. The desert was too hot, the valley was too wet, the mountains were too windy. Nowhere was quite right until they saw the first tree. Okay, sorry. Better? And they came to a forest where dappling light fell through the leaves and a gentle breeze twisted between the branches. All summer long, the friends lived and played among the trees and slept on the mossy ground. When winter came, the breeze turned colder, and they took a few branches for firewood. But where they had taken the branches, the rain came through and put out their fires. They chopped down a few whole trees to build shelters, but that made the forest colder still. So they cut down some more trees to turn their shelters into cabins. And soon, it seemed that the more wood they took, the more wood they needed. When summer returned, the sun blazed down and there weren't enough trees to shade them, so a few more branches made very pleasant porches. And before long, the people became skilled carpenters, and all summer long they worked to make the perfect village. They built porches out of wood, and ladders for climbing, and laundry poles with ornaments, and chairs out of wood, and wooden sculptures, and rulers for making straight lines. But when the fall came, winds came through again. They whipped through the spaces where the trees used to be, throwing all the villagers' fine work into disarray. They needed a new plan, one that would solve all their problems forever. So they started talking. Let's tie everything down with a rope. That'll never work. Well, we have to do something. We could catch the wind in big bottles. A barrier's the answer. We need more wood. So they cut down all the trees still standing. All, that is, except one last tree that was no good to anyone. Someone yells, "What about that one?" "Oh, leave it. It's more of a weed." With the wood, they built a wall. What fun they had working together to build it, and how proud they were when it was done. Stillness descended like a blanket. The clothes stayed put. The plants grew tall and straight. At last, their place was just right. A wall. But with nothing to look at but the wall, something happened to the people, too. In time, they started to forget their games and songs, and soon the happy village had grown cold and hard. For now, the villagers had a wall around their hearts. And this is what they would say at home. "I saw the neighbors looking at me strangely yesterday. Perhaps we ought to reinforce the door. I think they're jealous of my cabbages. Let's fence in the garden." They were peeking through the window, I swear it. Board up the windows. It had taken all the wood they had to build the wall. And so before long, each parent, thinking they were being clever, said the same thing to their child. "Remember that last tree? The one more like a weed, tiny and weak? We need to stay inside and guard the house. So you take this axe, go out behind the wall, and see if it's still there, chop it down, and bring us the wood. Get it before the neighbors do." Oh, that's all their discussions. But when the children, creeping out beyond the wall, found each other by the little tree, they soon forgot their task. They laughed, they ran and played and sang and tended to the tree and gathered its seeds. Each day they visited, it grew taller and more proud, until they knew they could never cut down that last tree. Meanwhile, each night the parents asked their children why they hadn't brought back wood. But when the children talked about the tree and how it made them feel, their parents wouldn't come outside to look or even listen. That's when the children knew what they had to do. They started to bring home wood, but it wasn't from the last tree. And when it was delivered plank by plank, their parents didn't question why it was so long and straight and smooth. All they said was, "This'll do just fine. Oh, it's so good." And they boarded and banged and fenced and reinforced and never looked up once. It was only when the wind rushed into the village, rattling up boarded windows and knocking down their fences, that they ran outside and saw that despite all their new wood, the last tree still stood. In the bright daylight, they remembered that they were old friends, not enemies. And when they heard the children playing in the tree and saw how the cool wind twisted gently through the branches and the sunshine fell in dappling shadows to the ground beneath, they were reminded of how things used to be. Then all at once they understood what they had done and how perhaps they could begin again. What fun they had taking down the wall and how proud they were when it was done. As they planted seeds and tended the saplings, they talked and sang, and as the children grew, the forest grew with them. And the last tree became the first. May we all take care of the earth. We're going to stay for the song.
I forgot.
We should go right into it. May your mind be open to learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart go up and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way. As you go your
Poet Rubin Alves writes, "So let us plant dates, even though we who plant them will never eat them. We must live by the love of what we will never see. That is the secret discipline. It is the refusal to let our creative act be dissolved away by our need for immediate sense experience, and it is a struggled commitment to the future of our grandchildren." This is the secret discipline we tap into each week with our offering. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. This morning's offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation. Thank you. Please join with me in the words of our community response. We are grateful for the opportunity to give and serve, and grateful for the gifts we have received. May this affirm the ministries of our church community, both within and beyond these walls. Most weeks, we share again a chance to feel our deep connections with one another and with that which is holy. It's in this spirit that we share in the candles of caring. If you have an important joy or concern that you would like to share with this gathered beloved community, we ask that you do so at this time. If you are with us on Zoom, we ask that you raise a virtual hand either in the reactions or participants area of Zoom, and we will call on you in turn. For those of you here in the sanctuary, we ask that you raise your hand high enough that we can see it, and we will bring the microphone around to you, and we will light a candle up front. Are there any candles of caring this morning?
At home, like to light a candle today? Please unmute. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Martha to light one last candle and let this represent all the joys and concerns that are with us this morning, but that remain unspoken. Please join with me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered beloved community. Let us hold in our hearts and in our prayers and thoughts those joys and concerns that were spoken aloud this morning, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. When I was 20 years old in the late 80s, I did a semester of study in Washington, D.C. And while I was there, I served as an intern for the then Senator Al Gore. He was already known as Senator Ozone and was thought of as rabid with his environmentalism. I didn't want to be his intern because of the environmental issues that he raised. In fact, I became an intern for him in spite of this. It just wasn't something that moved me then or seemed real or important. No, I wanted to intern for Gore because he was young himself then and promising, and I thought he would someday be elected president of the United States. Well, I wasn't wrong. He was elected by popular vote, but you know how it went back in 2000. But while an intern for Gore, I did not choose to work on any environmental issues, and that's something that I regret to this day. You might wonder, how did I become an environmentalist? Well, the first time I began to think about it really much at all was not so long after that, in the early 90s, when I was stationed in Naples, Italy, as a young naval officer. I was so excited when I got my orders telling me I was going to go to Naples, Bella Napoli. There's an old Italian saying, "Vedi Napoli e poi muori," which means, "See Naples and die." See, you already hear it as a punchline. The original meaning was, of course, that Naples was so beautiful that you should see it before you die. But of course, by the time I arrived in June 1990, the saying was still in use, but it was a punchline, and it was more like, see Naples and die. It's a very polluted city, horrible air pollution, a lot of smog. You can't see Mount Vesuvius, even though it's huge and it's just across the bay. Even though I was young and otherwise healthy, I had numerous colds and respiratory issues while I was there. I had a bad case of pneumonia while I was there. Every time I blew my nose or coughed, it came out black. Not just some of the time, every time. So, see Naples and die, indeed. And that woke me up to some of what we humans can do to our own environment. And think of it, Naples, just 200 miles to the south of St. Francis's Assisi. But that was just my wake-up call. Air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, this kind of environmental degradation is just the most obvious thing that we see all around us and experience in our health pretty regularly. The big looming problem that we also know about, of course, now is climate change, climate crisis, once known more often as global warming, which, as you probably know, is caused primarily by increased levels of greenhouse gases going into the atmosphere, carbon dioxide and methane, going into the atmosphere and acting as a blanket around the earth that holds in what is too much heat. So I woke up to that in my late 20s. By the early 2000s, when I was in my early 30s, I was the program director for Massachusetts Interfaith Power and Light, which worked to help congregations become more energy efficient and to think about renewable energy options. The interesting thing is that then, 20 years ago, not everyone believed that global warming was real. The biggest part of my job was trying to convince people of faith that global warming was real, that it was happening, that it was a problem that they should worry about. Even just 20 years ago, well-meaning, bright people weren't so sure that it was really happening or that it was really that serious. Certainly, it didn't seem to be on par with other social justice issues for most people of faith. There's an interesting quotation by Dr. Rajendra Puchari, director of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Puchari responded to being asked why climate change is still questioned by some in the United States today. And he cited an old saying from Vedanta, which is the wisdom tradition of Hinduism. He said, "It is easy to wake someone up who is asleep. However, it is much harder to wake someone up who is pretending to be asleep." It's true, isn't it? If somebody's actually asleep and you give them a nudge or speak in a loud voice, they'll jolt up. It's an automatic response. And that's what would happen sometimes 20 years ago if I was doing my job effectively. When I would present compelling evidence from reliable sources, sometimes people would jolt awake to it. On the other hand, if someone is pretending to be asleep and you nudge them and speak loudly, they'll pretend that they don't feel it or hear it. Today, in my opinion, anyone who doesn't believe in the global climate catastrophe is just pretending. And it's hard to wake them up when they are already awake, but are committed to pretending that they don't know, that they don't believe it. Luckily, these days, lots of us, I think most of us, believe. We are awake in terms of knowing and believing in the danger of what is happening. But the weird thing is, how often do most of us think about it, or how often do we actually do much about it? It's almost like, yes, we're awake, but we're sleepwalking. I know a big part of it is feeling overwhelmed. It's hard to feel that you can act in the face of something so enormous at such a gigantic scale. And it's easy to resist acting, given that it involves inconvenience and sometimes sacrifice. And we might even resent that other people don't seem to be doing those things, so why should we? Or we might say that individual solutions won't get us there, that it has to happen at a governmental and corporate level. And I don't disagree with that. I think it does have to happen at those levels. But ultimately, the way politics works, the way businesses work, our government leaders and corporations will respond to certain pressures. And so we still have individual power to get the ball rolling in a better direction. But the time does grow short. I think part of the issue is that we still, even those of us who are environmentalists, we still feel separate from the earth. Somehow helping the earth heal doesn't have the emotional resonance for most of us that helping another human heal does. There's still some deep disconnect. There is, of course, a connection between helping the earth and helping our fellow humans. And it is the case that the world's most impoverished humans suffer the most from environmental degradation and climate change. The world's most impoverished people, as well as a disproportionate number of people of color, will suffer first and worst, as they say, from both environmental degradation and climate change. That's a phenomenon known as environmental injustice or environmental racism. But even with that knowledge, there's still that disconnect, sometimes, from that feeling of urgency. In reality, there should be no disconnect at all. In reality, there is no disconnect at all. The late Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, "You carry Mother Earth within you. She is not outside of you. Mother Earth is not just your environment. Fear, separation, hate, and anger come from the wrong view that you and the earth are two separate entities. That's a dualistic way of seeing," he says. So breathe in and be aware of your body and look deeply into it and realize that you are the earth and your consciousness is also the consciousness of the earth. The practice of mindfulness helps us to touch Mother Earth inside the body, and this practice can help heal people. So the healing of the people should go together with the healing of the earth, says Thich Nhat Hanh. Before I share with you just a few things that are in process locally that you could become involved with, I want to do just a short meditation with you. Some of you know that we do a weekly meditation on Thursdays, usually Thursdays at 2, and so you'll get a little taste of that if you don't already participate. This meditation that I'll share with you briefly was created by Erica Hamilton, who's part of the World Interbeing Sangha, which is affiliated with Plum Village and Thich Nhat Hanh. This is slightly adapted. So I will be guiding us through this meditation. I will be inviting the bell to sound. And when you hear the bell, it's just a call to pay attention. So I'm going to ask you to, if you're comfortable with it, to close your eyes. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, I just ask that you look loosely ahead with a fuzzy gaze, a million-mile stare. I invite you to sit with your back straight, not forcing it, but just being aware of your spine and trying to keep it straight. I invite you to put your feet on the ground, if that's possible and comfortable for you. Again, not forcing it, but be aware of being grounded to the earth. And your thoughts will wander during the meditation time, but don't worry about it. That's very natural. And just when you notice your thoughts wandering, notice it with curiosity and try to come back to the guided meditation or to the sensation of your breathing. Focusing now on the element of air in my body, following the air coming in through my nostrils, flowing down my throat and into my lungs. Noticing my body expanding with each inhalation. Following my breath from the collapsing of my lungs through my throat, my nose, and noticing the sensation of my out-breath on my upper lip. Feeling the rhythm of my breathing and the exchange of air throughout my body. Breathing in, I am aware of the element of air in me. Breathing out, I am aware of the element of air in me. Focusing now on the element of water in my body. Placing my hand on my heart and feeling the beating of my heart. Circulating blood throughout my body from head to toe. Being aware of the ebb and flow of water circulating through all the cells of my body. Seeing myself before I was born, swimming in the water of the womb. Feeling connected to all life through the water that we all need. Breathing in, I am aware of the element of water in me. Breathing out, I am aware of the element of water in me. Focusing now on the element of earth in my body. Being aware that the minerals in my teeth and nails and bones are of the earth in my body. Being aware of the tiny microorganisms that live on my skin, in my gut, and throughout my body. Breathing in, I am aware of the element of earth in me. Breathing out, I am aware of the element of earth in me. Notice the feeling of breathing in and out. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of the sounds, that there is no silence. I invite you, when you're ready, if you have not already done so, to slowly, gently open your eyes. Indeed, the earth is within you. You are the earth. We are truly one. What can we do to begin to heal the earth and heal ourselves as we do so? There are some things I think of today that are happening right here and starting to happen right now. One thing that's happening is an initiative that Carolyn, or some of you know Carolyn as Cynthia Knapp, is doing. It's called the Green Welcome Initiative, and it's just getting started. It's designed to welcome newcomers to the town of Littleton, to introduce them to local social service and faith organizations, and promote healthy and ecological home, lawn, and garden practices. And this initiative seeks to raise awareness, increase understanding, and inspire action to reduce toxins in our town water, air, and land, to support biodiversity in general and pollinators in particular, and to mitigate climate change. So please let Carolyn know, and she is in the directory. Let her know if you are connected with a local organization the initiative should contact, and let her know if you are interested in getting involved. Another thing to look for is that here at First Church Unitarian, we're starting, speaking of healthy lawn and garden practices, we're in the early stages of thinking about our own lawns and how to use them in a way that's ecologically more useful and more useful to us in general, both the front space and the back, which are currently not much in use, really. So there's work to be done to make them usable spaces and garden areas that can be beautiful, raised beds that can grow local things. If you're interested in that, pay attention. You'll be hearing more about it. And the last thing I'll mention that you could get involved with is the Drawdown Eco Challenge. And Lynn Courtney is getting folks here involved. And she sent out a listserv message that you can go back and double check. First, Lynn introduced it to the folks participating in the Environmental Action Group, which meets on Tuesdays at 6 on Zoom, and there's one coming up this Tuesday. But we'd love to have lots of folks from FCU involved in the Drawdown Eco Challenge, whether you're part of the Environmental Action Group or not. From the website, it says that the Drawdown Eco Challenge is a fun and social way to take measurable action on the top solutions to global warming. And you can join the page there that was set up for FCU at drawdown.ecochallenge.org. Our team is called the FCU Environmental Action Group. Right now we have 12 FCUers involved, and we've already had an impact, reducing something like 900 pounds of carbon dioxide through our new choices. There are a great variety of things you can select to do. For instance, I'm committed to walking more for transportation when I can, trying to find one meal a day that I can eat mindfully without distractions. Surprising how hard that is. Educating myself about certain environmental issues, including sustainable fashion choices. I don't know if Lynn wanted to share maybe some of the things she's doing through the Drawdown Eco Challenge, or anyone else who's involved in it, just to give you a sense of some of the options you would have.
Yes, so something that I actually did just yesterday. So I should say that if you join the challenge, you can select daily activities or you can select one-time activities, and then you log them in, and that's how we know what progress we're making. And something I did just yesterday was to learn more about carbon offsets and what actually makes one better than another. And that was really interesting, and it then led me to buy a carbon offset set for my recent trip to Texas. I too am trying to walk more. I'm trying to log my food waste, because food waste is very near the top of Drawdown's solutions in terms of the amount of CO2 it will prevent from getting into the air. And it's amazing how much food we waste. And today's going to be a bad day because I'm going to go home and clean out my refrigerator. But those are just a couple of the things I'm doing, and you also get credit for things you're already doing. So I already, eat 3 meals a day without animal products. But the idea of the challenge is for you to try new things that you're not already doing to help the planet. And I know there are other people here who have also been doing this, so someone else may want to contribute as well.
Is there anyone else who wants to mention briefly what you're doing through the challenge? Okay. Well, keep an eye out for these things. You'll be seeing more information about them on the listserv. So there's different ways you can get involved. And as I say, you can attend the Zoom Environmental Action Group meeting this coming Tuesday at 6 to learn more about all kinds of ways that you can get involved. Help the earth and help yourself. I'm going to close with the words of Maya Angelou. We, this people on this small and drifting planet, whose hands can strike with such abandon that in a twinkling life is sapped from the living, yet those same hands can touch with such healing, irresistible tenderness. Out of such chaos, of such contradiction, we learn that we are neither devils nor divines. When we come to it, we, this people, on this wayward floating body, created on this earth, of this earth, have the power to fashion for this earth a climate where every person can live freely, without sanctimonious piety, without crippling fear. When we come to it, we must confess that we are the possible, we are the miraculous, the true wonder of this world. That is when, and only when, we come to it. May we come to it. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is from the Blue Hymnal. It's a fun one. Some of you will remember this. It's number 1074, Turn the World Around. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Friends, for our closing words, I invite you to put your hands up and feel the energy between us, between each other, our friends online as well, and all the creatures of the earth. For our closing words, may we indeed turn the world around, turning ourselves around, doing what we know we must do to save this beautiful planet, the creatures that make up the beautiful planet, our loved ones and ourselves, all of this beautiful planet. Loving the earth, loving one another. There is no separation. May we keep this world beautiful and alive. Go in peace. Amen. Blessed be.